everybody. Welcome back to Reflecting Shakespeare TV. We're thrilled you've joined us. My name is Erika, and I'm a programs manager and facilitator for the Old Globe's Reflecting Shakespeare program, which is a transformative performing arts program we've been bringing into people experiencing incarceration for several years. This video program is designed to go inside while we cannot. So let's get on with it. Let's bring onto our screen our co-presenters, James and Nikki. Hey, you two.
Hey.
Hi. Hey.
Hey everyone, my name is Nikki. I'm formerly incarcerated individual that served 25 years. I've been home for a little over 18 months now and have been working with the Old Globe for a little over a year as a facilitator for the Reflecting Shakespeare program. I've learned so much about Shakespeare, his plays, the great things that he's created, and it still lives on after all these years. It has definitely helped me grow, and I am so grateful to be working with this team, making magic happen.
Hey, it's great to see everybody. My name is James. I train as a director. I'm a teacher and facilitator at the Old Globe Theater. I've been bringing Reflecting Shakespeare inside. We're now coming into our 6th year. Thrilled about that. And before that, I delivered playwriting programs in prisons and juvenile hall for a few years. And now, let's welcome our guest for today, Haisan.
Hello, thank you all for having me.
Hello.
Like Nikki, I'm a formerly incarcerated person, having served 3 incarcerations totaling just over 24 years. My participation in the Shakespeare Prison Project at Racine Correctional Institution in Sturtevant, Wisconsin, and the sacrifice and leadership of Dr. Jonathan Shaler of the University of Wisconsin-Parkside came at a very pivotal point in my life and my personal growth, and opened doors and opportunities for me to nurture my most positive qualities. Since my 2013 release, I've continued to be engaged in and now am supporting the project by sharing my experiences with people like you all, highlighted by being a panelist in the 2016 Shakespeare in the Criminal Justice System at the Chicago Shakespeare Theater.
Hey man, Haisan, that's awesome. So anything else you want to share with us? Like your day-to-day, what's up? What's going on with you?
Well, sure, James. After I explained my lengthy incarcerations from 1991 to 2019, just over a little bit over 24 years, including a 17 and a half year stretch. My release from that stretch, that happened in 2013, and I've been gainfully employed since my release. I currently drive a semi. I deliver milk to grocery stores, and I'm hopefully we'll be starting a new business soon in 2021. I'm married to an amazing woman, and together we own 2 rental properties, and I'm the proud parents of 2 dogs, Brutus and Katie, and 4 cats, Cassius, Ariel, Desdemona, and Juliet.
Good names.
So let's get started with our check-ins, how we usually start class both in person and here virtually. So with our lows and our highs, sharing a low point from the week and a high point. Nikki?
So my low, I think is that like there's just not enough time in the day. And the crazy thing is that we're going to be actually talking about the concept of time today, which is super awesome, right? But there's just really not enough time in my day right now. And my high is that I'm so grateful that all of my time and all of my energy goes to something that fulfills me, makes me happy, and has purpose. So I had a strong mental awareness this week, and I was just like, wow, this is my life. Really, this is my life. Afterlife. Crazy.
Wow.
James?
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you, Nikki. My low is just I just want to get these last few days of national tension. I just want these things out the way, that low key tension that goes along with that. Just want that over and done with, right? And I guess my high is, and then my antidote to that has been just thinking about the different projects I've been working on this week, the different arts things I've been able to do, this thing we're able to do right now, the hour of class me and Nikki are going to have after this one is done today with some of our kids here in one of the court and community schools. So just being able to, I guess, even from my small way, put some good energy out into the world. That's my high. All right, Haisan, what about you, man?
Oh, okay. My low is very interesting. It happened at my job. Is I was delayed in a stop for almost half. It was about 25 minutes. The woman who receives the product just had a meltdown. She came back from a few days off. The place was trash, and she was throwing stuff and yelling and screaming and crying, saying, "I'm effing done." And just really just it sets me back on my my work schedule, but also personally, I got a chance to witness what a adult meltdown looks like, and it triggers something, and it clicked in my head, and I think this is the high point, if you will, which comes from the low point, is that used to be me, and I recognize that all tantrums look childish. And that was a point of growth for me. And the only thing that I could think to do was to try to help her rescue or salvage some of her dignity and, calm down and can I help you? What can I do? So the high was being part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And Erika?
Well, my low is like with James's wavelength a little bit. We're shooting this during election week, folks. So by the time this goes out, everyone knows the results of what's happening. But I guess my low in regards to this is just the evidence in pure numbers of how divided our country is. And I really, in my heart, pray for and wish for and hope for healing in this country, regardless of the result of the election. I'm talking about the actual populace. And my high, I guess, is on the kind of the very local level. I've recently moved house, and I've just had a few interactions with my neighbors this week that have just been so positive and very family feeling, and they've really brought love to my heart. So that's my high. And for those of you watching this, what were your lows and highs this week? We're going to ask you to journal along, and you can just start with that check-in. All right, should we start with our next activity, which is a warm-up game? James, What do you have for us?
All right, this week, let's do My Name Is and I Feel. And that goes like this. So I'll say my name, James, and I feel. And that will express how I feel with my voice and my body. I might say a word. I might just make a sound that expresses that emotion. I also might make a gesture that expresses that feeling. And after I do that, everybody together, including hopefully everyone watching, will repeat that whole thing back to me. So it's about that back and forth. So I'm going to start us off with this. Here we go. My name is James, and I feel whoa.
All right.
My name is James, and I feel
whoa.
whoa.
Yes.
Yay.
All right, Nikki.
My name is Nikki, and I feel wow.
My name is
Okay. My name is Nikki,
and I
feel My name is Haisan, and I feel
My name is Haisan.
and I feel.
I feel
My name is Erika, and I feel
My name is Erika,
and I feel
All right, and everyone watching, let us have yours.
Bring it.
Yes.
I felt it.
Are you really feeling
You
that?
feel it?
Yes,
You
I
feel
feel it. I feel
Definitely.
it.
Definitely.
That's power right there.
It
Thanks,
is.
everyone. Thank you for joining in with us. We really appreciate it.
That was so awesome. So, Haisan, what do you remember about doing warm-up games in the classes on the inside?
A lot of different. It took a lot to get barriers to come down, and the most, I think, the ones that the strongest barriers to come down were movement of all things. The exercise that involved people to just sit in their chair and do this, but actually get up and stand and take a pose that maybe one wouldn't take. And when you have to freeze very close, because prison is a very space conscious place, to be in the project, someone's bubble. So the icebreakers that were engaging and forcing people outside their comfort zones were the ones that really stood out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, now that we've warmed up our sense of play, let us get to work. As you've already heard, we're organizing our discussion of William Shakespeare's The Winter's Tale through a socio-emotional healing pathway.
So let's check in with where we are in the process, right? From pain to amends, right? So we've worked our way through the first three, which is pain, fear, and anger, right? Thinking about those, which ultimately leads up into the damage that all of these different emotions have caused. Now you think about those emotions also had jealousy, insecurity, fear, and all leading into anger. With all that culminating inside, how can damage just not be in the picture, right? So this last scene had us looking at guilt. So Leontes is feeling guilty for his actions. James, now that I've got it all, like with the tornado of emotions that are out there right now, why don't you fill us in with the context of the play and how this all kind of looks like in real life? Well, I mean, with Shakespeare, right?
Right.
Right.
As you know, Nikki, I love a bit of drama, and in this play, there's been a lot going on.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get up to speed with where we are in The Winter's Tale. King Leontes has destroyed his family, went on a destructive rampage stemming from him believing his wife had had an affair with his best friend. By the time that fury ran its course, his wife and only son were dead, and his baby daughter was sent to be abandoned in a remote place. Only then did he learn he had it all wrong all along. And he begs forgiveness from his God and vows to make penitence his daily ritual.
But just after that, the audience sees his baby girl, now named Perdita or Perdita, or however you're engaging with the Shakespeare. We see that Perdita is abandoned on the shores of Bohemia, the kingdom of Leontes' best friend, the one James mentioned that he thought his wife might have been having an affair with. So even with a storm raging and there's a bear on the loose, all of a sudden, hope creeps in.
Love life with hope. Hope changes everything. But crazy, right? So that Shakespeare adds this twist. There's a baby, there's a bear, then there's these shepherds that find baby Perdita and the box of gold left with her and vow to look after her, saying, "'Tis a lucky day and we shall do great deeds on it." So if this ain't enough to keep you on your seat, James, take it away.
Right. So you think that the next thing would happen would involve the baby. But then Shakespeare does something very unusual. He stops the flow of the play and fast forward 16 years by introducing a symbolic character, the character of time. So we're going to take a look at that now, and Haisan is going to read that speech for us. Go ahead, Mike.
Aye. That please some try all, both joy and terror of good and bad, that makes and unfolds error. Now take upon me in the name of time to use my wings. Impute it not a crime to me or my swift passage that I slide o'er 16 years and leave the growth untried of that wide gap, since it is my power to o'erthrow law and in one self-born hour to plant an old well custom. Your patience is allowing, I turn my glass and give my scene such growing as you had slept between Leontes leaving, the effects of his fond jealousy so grieving that he shuts up himself. Imagine me, gentle spectators, that I now in fair Bohemia, and remember well, I mentioned the son or the kings, which Florizel I now name to you, and with speed so pace to speak of Perdita. Now grown in grace equal with wondering, what of her ensues, I list not prophecy, but let time's news be known when 'tis brought forth, a shepherd's daughter. And what to her adheres, which follows after, is the argument of time.
Yay! That was beautiful.
Yes. Love that voice.
Mm.
Yes. Good stuff.
That's awesome. I like that. We used to like really peel away like layers and layers of what is he saying, and you can interpret it in many different ways. And this one's fat with possibilities for interpretation.
Yes.
Well, let's get into that. Why don't we start just a little bit of like plot wise, just to make sure we've got some of the nuts and bolts of what just happened there.
Sure.
James, why don't you help us with that?
Yeah, all right. So we're going to pull it apart a little bit. So time explains we're going forward 16 years. and we need to forgive him, right? Give me a break. That's what we're going to do. And I guess Shakespeare's audience wasn't so accustomed to flash forwards and flashbacks as we are now. And we learn about the characters. First, we learn that Leontes has shut himself up because of the depth of his grieving.
And then time reminds us that Polixenes had a son that we didn't meet yet, but make sure that we know his name, Florizel. And also tells us that baby Perdita has grown very gracious and very curious. And while all of us can guess what might happen when two teenagers are around, time is very coy and is not going to tell us what will transpire. You can't see into the future.
All right, so let's step back from the plot for a second and look at how time describes himself or itself at the very top of the speech. This I that please some, try all, both joy and terror of good and bad, that makes and unfolds error. You know, I please some, I test everybody, I'm positive and negative, I make and solve the problems. I mean, what do you think about that description of time?
I like it. It's very full and broad. And I think each one is true in its own, and it has its own truth to it. I love it, the juxtaposition of good and bad, joy and terror, positive and negative. It's as if to say that everything is cured or remedied with time.
What resonated right now really loud for me is when Haisan was reading and how time simply said, since it is in my power. And it's so insane to me how that just resonated as absolute truth because of the concept of time and how drastically different it was from the inside versus the outside, and how much power it has with the good and the bad, and it makes unfold errors and just everything that correlate, like it, we have no idea. I feel like all of a sudden I've had this aha moment and I'm in the universe somewhere trying to understand the concept of time, because it has so much power. And I appreciate what people say now even more so, you know, ain't no present like the present. So just wanted to say that for sure.
Love it.
All right, so we know that our conversation about time is going to get pretty rich. So before we jump in, let's start with just a fill in the blank poetry exercise. So James, kick it off.
Time is.
It looks like.
It smells like.
It sounds like.
It tastes like.
And then choose one of these. I wish that time would. I want time to. I hope that time will.
All right, we're going to fill in some of the responses to that prompt that came from one of the women's group that we've been working with last year.
Time is a bad reminder. It looks like memories I didn't make. It smells like food I haven't tasted in a while. It sounds like voices I haven't heard. It feels like guilt and fear. I wish that time would stop only for the outside world, not for me. For me, I want time to hurry up so I can finally be free.
Time is a measurement. It looks like hands on a clock. It smells like changes of seasons. It sounds like rain on my window. It tastes like barbecue, pumpkin pie, and cinnamon. It feels like life keeps moving on without me there. I hope that time will let me find myself, for I am lost, and I have gone to look for myself. If I shall return before I get back, please ask me to sit down and wait patiently.
Time is passing me by. It looks like gray hair and wrinkles, death. It smells like mothballs. It sounds like old music. It tastes like grandma's chocolate cream pie. Feels like bones aching. I hope that time will be kind to me.
Time is healing. It looks like dreams, it smells like slumber. It sounds like speed. It tastes like a new breath. I hope that time will heal my scars and turn me into the person I want to be.
what came up for me when we were thinking about this concept of time, and I was thinking about how time may operate out in the free world, how time may operate in the carceral world, and the relationship between those two things, and how it's maybe experienced differently in both of those settings. And what came up for me also was the issue of maybe visibility and invisibility, perhaps for those who are experiencing incarceration, and in that idea of time.
Interesting. I guess I'm trying to process I don't know necessarily that on a conscious level either exists. Like on a day-to-day basis, I don't see myself experiencing time. The truth is that after 17 years, 3 months, and 12 days straight, when they opened the door, I looked back on that time and it seemed like a blink of an eye. But the day that my sentence was handed down, it looked like an albatross. So you get to a point where you don't even process time as much as you process experience, perhaps.
It's so crazy that you say that, the way that you say that. I think of the 25 years, right, that I was there, and never thinking that I was ever going to get out. And realizing it's the power of the mind. It's the power of the attitude. The first 15 years, how that time just dragged, and every single day seemed like it was an eternity, and it was like, but when my attitude and my spirit and my mentality changed the last 10 years, it was like, ooh, it was like I was skipping through dandelions sometimes, and time
Yep.
was just doing what it was doing for me, with grace and with mercy and with favor, and when I got out, it was having those conversations like with my mother, and she's like, I cannot believe you were gone for 25. It doesn't feel like, she's like, but when you were in there, it felt like an eternity.
It's so interesting. I appreciate, because I hear so many different things. I think of in the context of the play, how much like those of us who've committed the type of crimes where we deserve to be incarcerated for decades, Leontes is in the same position, and his own prison exists, within a shell of his body. As a result, we're able to examine, I think, at least from my point of view, his process. Like, if I could, at the point that I offended, that I committed my crime, fast forward to the other side of my sentence and project the man I wanted to be. Everything that happened in that intervening time was how I was supposed to do my time. Yep. And that was, I tell people every day while I was serving time, and people who come in, me being an old head now, is that if you aren't doing one thing every day to prepare for your release, then you're wasting your time. You should do at least one thing every day to prepare for your release. Sure, you're going to play dominoes, but you better crack a book, or you better sit and meditate, or get your push-ups in, or do something. And I guess relate again back to the text, where we see that Leontes has what we all pray for, was a fast forward.
I love that you say that.
Yeah,
that is an aspect that I hadn't thought about, the getting what you pray for, the fast forward.
Me directly, I can only speak to my experience. I was incarcerated before my son was born, and I was released a couple months before his high school graduation. The intervening time was spent, mail and phone calls and visits only do so much, and you realize that, much like Leontes, and he realized, that his daughter grew up to be a beautiful young lady. My son grew up to be an amazing young man, and he became this human being who, without me, he wouldn't exist. But with none of the input that I would have offered, the contribution I would have had to his life, based on that. And I think part of what I extract from that also was and maybe I'm digging too deep here, but when you commit an act so egregious that you ask yourself, what have I done? When you realize that what you have done has affected people that you love, people that you would never, ever, ever think in a million years of trying to hurt. The shame that comes with that is overwhelming. And until you learn how to process that shame, it can consume you, and maybe part of the fast forwarding is the reconciliation with shame as well, and the full gravity of the depth of his own personal loss, yes, but that his own personal loss came at his own hand by his own acts, by his own mental processes, and the reconciliation of time probably is the 16 years probably wasn't enough to touch on that.
Hmm. For me, what came up always in this moment of the play, and when we started to look at it in the last couple of years or so, was what's Leontes doing during this whole span of time? What's his day to day?
I wonder if my family and my loved ones thought the same thing. What do we do? You know, Nikki, your people probably have asked you, what did you do while you're in there?
I think for me too, like one of the things as we're talking about this right now, like you think, it's just you in there doing the time, and it's not. Your family, your loved ones are out here and they're suffering and they're hurting just as much as you are. And they want you to get home to them just as much as you want to get out and get back to society and get home with them.
When you're incarcerated, you have time for self-reflection. You have time to really challenge yourself. And when you're in the world, when you're out here, you got bills, you got family responsibilities, you got cats, litter boxes to change and dogs to walk, and you don't have those time unless you force yourself to do, which is what I've had to incorporate in my own personal life. Force myself to go back, if you will, to prison and take those times, those solitary moments. I wake early in the morning and I have my commune with my God, and then I take the time to process my day. And I know that in my life, if I had not gotten incarcerated, I would never know myself the way I do now, because I would have had to been dealing with, all the things that come with being free. While we're incarcerated, being locked up, you fight so many battles. The most important battle is the one within yourself, and that requires introspect, that requires the time. And this is a truth that means the most to me. I felt that prison was beneath me, but my conduct showed quite otherwise. So I had to reconcile who I saw myself as versus who I had been. And the only thing, and I used to say this to my sons, to become the man you want to be, you have to be the man you want to become. And the only way for me to do that was to practice the man I was going to be in a free role while I was in. And if I wasn't locked up, I would have never had a chance to practice or examine, because I had bills and responsibilities. So I can appreciate the power, the healing power of time. But the healing power of time is not just a given. It's something that you have to work towards, kind of like blessings. You could say, God, give me. But the minute you take a step towards a blessing, you're going to find out they come a whole lot quicker.
What Haisan just said there about practicing becoming what you want to become, I'm wondering if there's a way to join that idea to the guilt and growth, whatever the journaling question is.
And I think there's something about the use of the word active, of it not being passive, of it having to be rigorously pursued. That's very important.
Fearless as well. You have to be fearless in your recovery and your change. You have to do it without any fear.
And also too, willing. You got to be willing to be able to take a look at stuff like that. Like willingness alters your attitude, it alters your perspective, it alters your being, and willingness can take you a long way into doing that self-reflection journey. All right, guys, time for the reflection question. Are you ready? I encourage every single one of you to take a moment and to fill this question out. How are you actively, let me say it again, actively becoming who you want to be, and how will that reflect and show up in your life in the next 16 years? How are you doing that actively? And if you're willing just to take a little time to honor yourself, as we should take a moment to honor ourselves, we would appreciate it if you write a letter. Have your future self write a letter to you today, now, in real time. Ready? Take it on, folks. Take it on.
You know, James, I commend you. The word active is so key in that question.
Right.
Because it requires you to do more than theorize. My sister wanted to write a book, and she's like, I was like, no, this is what the truth is. If you dance, you're a dancer. If you sing, you're a singer. If you write, you're a writer. But if you think, you're just a thinker. So if you haven't written today, you're just a thinker. Till you put pen to paper, you're just a thinker. When you start putting pen to paper, you're a writer. So when you want to be, so I carried myself, and I was, counseled and disciplined. I carried myself like with a man of dignity and integrity and honor. I didn't play games. Staff members respected me because I was the same person right now that I was then. And people said, well, how did you get out of prison? I'm doing better than a lot of people who've never been locked up. God's blessed me with gifts, and I'm a hardworking son of a gun. And in addition to that, I practiced this for 17 years, 3 months, and 12 days straight. And once the adjustment period, I was ready. So when someone asked me, okay, can I see your business plan? Are you ready for finance? I have it right here. Yes, here it goes. They ask, do you understand, what this job entails? I can tell them, yes, I do. And what I don't know, I have the aptitude to learn it with the right training. Nobody wants this more than me. Just being able, I practiced interviewing. I practiced the public speaking that I do now. I practiced that when I was inside. I walk back and forth. When I go to SAG, I wouldn't get mad and depressed. They'd give me my Quran and my slippers, and I start walking back and forth, and I'd be practicing talking, practicing executing plans and wooing. I even practiced macking the ladies, trying to woo the ladies, and the whole thing. I practiced who I was going to be, right? When I was in there, and it was active. It was a day-to-day endeavor. I would leave the card table and kick with the brother. Hey, I got to go get some me time. My cellie went to rec. I'm gonna go up there and just sometimes I would get on my knees and just face the east and meditate. Sometimes I would work myself up to the point of fatigue, so that when in that deep fatigue, I could find out what it meant like to want, to want water, to want anything, and not. I know what it's like to want to be like physically. I was already emotionally and spiritually deprived, to be physically deprived, and from that base, and I watch what I do, and I'm dead tired, and I make myself do a couple more reps, and I feel like I accomplished the world in the shower. I was actively. That word, James, is so key. It can't be overlooked. Because life is not a spectator sport. You really got to get out there and do it. Everything that I've been blessed to have is not because I got out and said, okay, snap my fingers. Like, no, you know what? I got to get up at 2 a.m. so that I can be ready to go get this grind, because nobody, and you know what? I found out ain't nobody wanted more than me. Ain't nobody as thirsty as me. And people see that. Employers see that. Hey, I show up to work. I'm always a half hour early for work. Even if I don't got it, I'm half hour early, and I may not stay a half hour late, but I'm always a half hour early. So I'm here. If somebody needs help, whatever, I'm here. And I practiced that actively. When I took a job in prison, even though it only paid 17 cents an hour, if it was cleaning toilets, those toilets were going to shine. I didn't care. They, oh man, you working for the man, the police got you. Like, you know what, bro? I ain't working for these people. They don't pay me enough to work for them. I'm working for me. I'm working for God. I'm working for, working for my freedom, working for, I'm working for rent, the day after I get out. I got rent to pay, bro. Straight up. That's how I did it. So when you say it actively, I would almost put that in bold italics with flashing lights, because you have to do something every day to prepare for your freedom, and then measure yourself if you don't, and find out what's keeping you from that.
This was such an incredible conversation. I think we're all feeling uplifted, and I hope those of you watching that you're enjoying it as much as we are here together in our circle on the screen. But it's come to that time. It is the end of our episode. What? I know. This was a real special one.
For sure. It was awesome. Not ready to go.
Yeah. We have to do the director's cut.
Yes. Very good time.
All right, so let's bring this to an end, sadly, and let's end our program the way that we end our work when we're in class together. And we're going to do a one-word checkout, and that one word describing how you feel right now. Nikki, kick us off.
Connected.
humbled,
connected,
heart enriched.
And everyone watching, oh, I felt it. I felt it. All right. So right now, what we'll do is how we normally in class. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. We're going to clap on that fourth beat. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Oh, it's
Got
good.
it.
All right. Hi, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching, folks.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Thank you guys